So good morning again. So I think we can start. We'll start with a short 5 minutes meditation as we always do, not always at times. So let us take 3 deep and long breaths, slow breaths, inhaling from the nose, exhaling from the mouth. So for these 5 minutes, we'll just stay with the breath. The thoughts may come, but we are not going to give attention to thoughts right now. I know that I am breathing. I know that thoughts are coming. Settling down as the knowing. I am the knowing. Knowing physical sensations, knowing the feelings, knowing the breathing. Just the pure knowing. So taking a stance as this awareness, taking a stance as the knowing. Usually we are not able to take this stance. But now consciously we are knowing ourselves as this awareness. So rather than buying into the thoughts and feelings, usually we are too much identified with the thoughts and feelings. Now we are disengaging from them. They are not important. The importance that we give them, they are not that important. And what is silently ignored is this awareness. So for the last 1 minute, we'll just stay as awareness. We may notice that it's not easy, to stay as awareness is not easy in the beginning, because we are so habituated to cling to our thoughts and feelings. We are very, very used to walking that way. So it's okay to encounter resistance, to encounter restlessness while we are trying to settle down as awareness. Not to give the practice up just because we are feeling restless and not really there, if one can say. So just allowing all kind of resistances to be there. They may be there. Restlessness may be there. I am aware of the resistance. I am aware of the restlessness. So just again and again taking a stance as awareness. So yeah, anything anyone wants to share? So I have something for us to listen to. I'll play it, and maybe then we can share our reflections later. So yeah.
Cultivating mindfulness. One more question, then I'll let you all go. Okay? Promise. Ha 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 ha. I have these questions in my mind. Who am I? Where have I come from? What is my duty? Where have I to go? How to get the answers to all these questions? Please guide. I would say, just sit and look at your breath. Because the mind proliferates endless questions, never stops. And in the end, it cannot be answered by our conceptual mind, right? The conceptual mind is what's asking the questions. It will not receive, because whatever answers you will get more questions and more questions. You only get the answers from a silent mind. our genuine mind in the silence knows the answers. It doesn't come in words. But we have to listen. And the only way to do that is to quieten down the mind, and then you can put the question and let it just percolate down through the silence of our inner being. And the answer will come that way. If we are just reading endless books, going to endless talks and thinking, the mind just goes around like this and this and this. Of course, it doesn't mean that we cannot read books, we cannot attend teaching for the answers. But however many questions are answered, there will be more questions. It doesn't end that way. The only real answers comes from within us, from our own wisdom mind. And that is a very silent mind. Okay, so
Yeah, so anything anyone wants to share?
This is so true, what she said, that one question leads to another. Questions are endless, and there's no answer which actually satisfies the mind. So I think this really is so true, that probably the answers are only to be found in the silence within. Thank you for sharing this, Monica.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. I was just thinking about this practice which we were doing, and I was thinking about silent awareness and solitude. I have tried to do this before, but it was so difficult. But and that is that element of solitude. But now that we were trying to do it even for a few minutes together, there was a certain courage that I felt, and it was all the better. And I couldn't help but remember how the teachings of Mother Sri Aurobindo emphasize a collectiveness. So I guess that is what I felt this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So I think both solitude, the silent alone practice, and also the collective one, I think both have their own place. And since we are so much in forgetfulness all the time and so much restless, too much identification with thoughts and feelings, that many times alone it becomes difficult. So I totally resonate. And that's why in Buddhism they say to take refuge in these three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So this collectiveness definitely has some push, as you said, you felt the courage. So yeah, whatever helps. Yes.
Yes, yeah, the Sangha, yeah, the Sangam Charanam. Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. And also the other thing is that as she was sharing, that there is no end to reading books, there is no end to attending teachings and listening to talks and talks and talks. And that also has its own purpose, because when we are listening to a talk or a teaching, what it does is acts as an acid to purify the mind if the teaching is sharp and crisp. So through that, the mind becomes silent. But the idea is to make the mind less chattering and not just continue in its, as she was sharing, this round, 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 round. Because many a times it also happens that even when I'm listening to talks and teachings, the mind does not get settled. I want more, I want more. So there is no end to this wanting more. And the biggest blessing can be if I can connect to the direct source of that wisdom. So even when I'm listening to a teaching, that teaching is also coming from some source. So the supreme source of that wisdom, if I can directly tune into it in myself, which is available to us 24/7, I think there one needs to give it some time and maybe energy. Yeah. Disconnecting from outer world becomes difficult, because somewhere, somehow we are connected, to one thing or the other thing, even subconsciously. Absolutely, yes. And right now, when we know ourselves as awareness, just like we did it, for 5 minutes, it's not that we are abandoning the thoughts. It's not that I have to cut away, shun away the thoughts, not like that force. It's just knowing that I have stayed there enough. So something in me is convinced that I'm not going to get much there. The fulfillment that I seek is not going to be found there. And if something in me is not yet convinced, then I must go and dwell in thoughts for as long as I want to. But again, if after few months or years or days, I become convinced that yahan nahi mila, I'm not going to find contentment there, the joy that I seek, then come back. There can be a coming back. So now I can put the thoughts and feelings in the background, like Tenzing Palmo, she shares, like background TV, for example. Background TV is going on and you are reading your book. So your whole attention is on the book and not on the chatter coming from the TV. Because TV now is chatterful in front of what you are reading. That is more important. So once we know what is more important, and if for me still the thoughts and feelings become important, then I must and go give them attention. It's not that I have to keep shunning them away, because I'll not be able to do that. So something in me has to become convinced that I don't want to go there. I've had enough. Something like that. Yeah. And then take our throne. This knowing ourselves as awareness, this is like taking back our throne. We reclaim our power back. Yeah, anything else anyone wants to share?
Yeah, I wanted to add something. Just an extension of this, I feel that this was about questions, right? This was about silencing the mind. And the same thing, I think I have touched in conflicts. Especially say sometimes when it gets a little too much, when it's too messy, maybe when you're like, okay, why can't other understand, or why can't, it's like just he, she, he kind, whatever. It doesn't have to be he, she, it can be she, or he. But when you're not getting a resolution, one thing is to just stay in that state, but one can also just step away, right? Like, okay, this is something I cannot figure out, and it's all right for it to be unresolved, but I don't want to participate in that thing. So I felt that was also kind of a way of stepping back into silence, right? That, and then when you step back after some time, that unresolved thing also just melts away,
and but you had chosen to walk further, right? Like, because you've spent too much time in that conflict already. And of course, how the ego just wants to increase and increase and increase. So I feel this stepping away or silencing is also kind of, you give less energy or no energy to the ego then, right? Like that, there's nothing there. There's nothing, or even if there, I cannot get to the end of it. And I'd rather be, I just choose to be with me or the silence or something. And it solves things sometimes. Like it helps you be in, and the other to be in more silence or move beyond where you were stuck. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And I think one can make it even more powerful, because if I'm stepping back physically from that situation, many a times it happens that in my thoughts I have not stepped back. I'm still ruminating. Now I'm ruminating in my solitude. Earlier I was ruminating with a person, for example. So if the to add on to the benefit of this stepping back, I think if I can step back from my thoughts when I am not in that physical conflict with the person, that can be even more empowering. And that also shifts the consciousness of the energy of the whole situation. Because then more loving and kind thoughts come out, rather than this, the chucky of the thoughts which was going on. Yeah. And in that we empower ourselves, and we also empower the other person unknowingly. Like, it's not that the person knows that this is happening. People may not be aware, people who are involved in the conflict. But when I step back, truly stepping back is stepping back from my thoughts about this and that, as you were sharing. That can be really empowering. Yes. Yeah. So there is another short teaching which I can show if there is no reflection further. Just a second. Yeah. So so this is about pointing out of the true nature. So in Buddhism, we have these pointing out instructions, as if the teacher just points out at your true nature, like, really, like, look here. And usually it is done in privacy. It's not like given out public. It's not for hundreds to listen. It's like the teacher talks to a disciple in private sessions. And if one is forgetting, the teacher would point out at its true nature that here you are, this, focus on this, be attentive to this. So I thought, since we were at that and we were connecting with the breath and silencing the mind, maybe it would be nice to listen to this.
How to connect directly to your true nature, the Buddha nature, directly. And for that teaching is what we call pointing out teaching. Pointing out means point out your true nature. Like point out your finger, this is the diamond. Yeah. You, for example, you are holding diamond in your hand and you are looking at the diamond. But the problem is you don't know that it's a diamond. You have diamond, you're looking at diamond, you're seeing the diamond, but you don't know that it's a diamond. Then what should you do? Simple. Point out. Ah, hello, this is a diamond. Ah, this is a diamond. Oh, precious. So if you don't realize this is a diamond, then even you have many big diamond full of your hand, but for you it's same as pebbles, same as small stone. For you there's no value. But if you realize this is a diamond, then diamond become very, very value for you. Wow, precious. So the practice for that is first introduce. When you receive this introduction of nature mind practice, and after that you practice, then it's there. But the problem is so easy, so close. This is why it becomes difficult. So easy, you cannot believe. So close to you, you cannot see it. This is why normally we don't give this pointed out teaching in the public. So I cannot teach you now, but I just tell you a little bit quality of this nature of mind. That's why in order to practice this, you have to practice step by step. Foundational practice and main practice. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
So it's like, we have the diamond, all of us. We live like a beggar. We don't live like a king. So what's the point of having the treasure if I don't even know the treasure? And that's where the effort is required. And what he was sharing about the foundations of the practice, that the first is to be able to be with the breath. In most of the teachings, breath is considered very important, one can say a tool to come back, to bring the mind to the body, because the mind usually is not in the body. And that's why diseases happen. And since the mind is not in the body, we are not aware, we are not catching the symptoms at all. And when the disease has progressed too much, then only we get to know that, oh my God, something was wrong, because I was not even there in the body. And if I'm conscious, if with a greater degree we become conscious, we are with the body, being aware, being conscious, then even when the ripple of a disease or something starts, we get to know, we notice that movement, that something is uneasy, something was not right. So to notice that, to become conscious and to see what was not right and to correct and whatever is required there. And usually we are so lost, as Janvi was sharing in the upper surface consciousness, we are so lost that we don't catch the ripple of unease. And then it goes on and on and on, builds up and turns into a physical disease, which started only with a ripple. And when we begin to sit just simply with the breathing, again, there is a lot of resistance that we face from the mind because we are not used to it. And the mind is not used to be silent. So जैसे एक बच्चे को गंदी habit पड़ जाती है, a child maybe gets into a bad habit of being restless, for example. Not a child, we all adults are restless most of the times. But so then the mother has to maybe use some tools so that the child settles down and become quiet. And that's how what we have to, I believe, do with ourselves. That I know that the mind is restless, and that's precisely why I would like to sit with the breathing consciously, being aware of it. And staying as awareness. So first staying with the breathing, consciously knowing that we are breathing, and then later on staying as the breathing, staying as the breathing, as the awareness rather than on the content, focusing on the content of awareness. We focus on awareness. I am this awareness. Yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, slowing down. Yes. Mm. Yeah, anything anyone would like to share, please unmute and share.
Yeah, hi Monica.
Hi, Taru. Sorry, Ritu. Yes.
Yeah, my battery died and I missed the recording of Tenzin Palmo and I was so excited to hear it. In fact, last night I dreamt of her. So if during this session it's possible, you can play it again. Otherwise, if possible, you can just share it with me later.
Yeah, I can play it again because it's only 2 minutes. It's very short. So
Okay,
you
fine,
missed
fine.
the Tenzing Palmo part, right?
Yeah, just when her face came on the screen
Uh-huh.
and she started speaking, then my phone's battery died down.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Just a second.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime, if anyone wants to share anything, please go ahead. So it was basically about focusing on the breathing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just play it, and only for 2 minutes it was.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm sure all of us don't mind listening to this again, right? So I'm playing it.
Is through cultivating mindfulness. One more question, then I'll let you all go. Okay? Promise. Ha 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 ha. I have these questions in my mind. Who am I? Where have I come from? What is my duty? Where have I to go? How to get the answers to all these questions? Please guide. I would say just sit and look at your breath. Because the mind proliferates endless questions, never stops. And in the end, it cannot be answered by our conceptual mind, right? The conceptual mind is what's asking the questions. It will not receive, because whatever answers you will get more questions and more questions. You only get the answers from a silent mind. Our genuine mind in the silence knows the answers. It doesn't come in words. But we have to listen. And the only way to do that is to quieten down the mind, and then you can put the question and let it just percolate down through the silence of our inner being. And the answer will come that way. If we are just reading endless books, going to endless talks and thinking, the mind just goes around like this and this and this. Of course, it doesn't mean that we cannot read books, we cannot attend teaching for the answers. But however many questions are answered, there will be more questions. It doesn't end that way. The only real answers comes from within us, from our own wisdom mind. And that is a very silent mind.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you for playing.
Yeah. Thank you for letting us listen it again. Yeah.
But we keep still, the mind keeps working. And once I heard her recording. I think you only had shared it. Even that was about mindfulness only, that every day we should make a practice, even if it's 10 minutes a day. But then instead of doing it once in a week for 2 hours, we should make it a regular practice of mindfulness. So that's a very good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even many times, even 5 minutes a day helps. And what is 5 minutes? I mean, 5 minutes is nothing, the time we spend, in activities during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my son, he's very hyperactive and he's a teenager now, so he gets angry fast. So once he had gone to one of his friend's house, and his father is a very big cardiologist. He's in AIMS. So he said exactly the same thing to him. He said, at this age, you have apprehensions about your future and so many things you think you have to do when so little you're doing. The screens are too much, when there's too much of social media and all. So he said, okay, the only thing I want to tell you is just 5 times a day, just sit with yourself and just concentrate on breathing. So it was nice to know that, I mean, even a big cardiologist who was also saying the same thing. So actually sitting with oneself and concentrating on breathing really calms us and helps us know more about ourselves instead of the questions. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you seen that? Because in one of the morning meditations, we had shared that from the Mission Joy. Have you seen the Mission Joy movie?
No.
You haven't? Okay, maybe I can share the link today, maybe the last day to watch it. So in that, I
Okay.
had shared a clip, maybe even I can share the morning meditation recording with you, where we shared that clip with all of us, where they were sharing actual experiments that scientists have been able to, trace and have a proof for, that how people who are meditating daily and have expertise in meditation, they, when an intense external stimulus comes like heat or hot water, they are able to go through it much easily than those people who are not used to meditation. So with those people who are not used to meditation, their mind recreates the pain again and again. So they think about the pain, and hence the suffering creates more and more and more suffering. While the meditating monks, for them, the hot water comes and the pain is there, and then the pain completely goes away. So they don't fuel the thinking. So it was a very solid evidence, since all of us need evidence, that mujhe proof dikhao iska, so there it was a very solid evidence. Maybe if I can find it out, I'll share it with you if you missed that, because there we get convinced that, see, it works. Look, it works. And we don't realize that by this obsessive thinking, we actually promote and prolong our own suffering, and one can just go through pain like that as if nothing happened. True. Yeah. Yes. Anyone else wants to share? So let us give ourselves this chance to at least be with ourselves for 5 minutes every day, as Ritu was sharing. Just 5 minutes every day is also fine. And when we say being with ourselves, that does not mean being with our thoughts. Because thoughts are always about something, this person, that situation, this situation. And when I'm immersed in thinking, I am usually, the kind of thoughts that we have, usually we are not with ourselves. So coming back home to ourselves would mean connecting, using as if the thread of the breath, clinging to the breath, I come back to the body. I become one with the body. So feeling all the sensations that are there in the body. Many a times overwhelming situations may be there. So connecting with the pain in the body, but not going into the forest of thought. There we lose ourselves. And as she was sharing, we don't find any resolutions. Not only that we lose ourselves, we don't find any resolutions. One thread after the another, one thread after the another, and the whole mesh is created. just like the day of spider, creates a web and then becomes entangled into it. So I think this much we can grant ourselves, 5 minutes. And if we can extend that, that's even more beautiful, that 5 minutes 3 times a day, and then make it stretch into the whole of the day. Not becoming unconscious of knowing ourselves as awareness as we go about the day. So having this parallel consciousness with us, it is very empowering. It's very, very empowering. And then we also don't dwell on the problems or the people who are giving us problems, because that's where the mind usually is occupied. So one has the more chance to become more kind, compassionate, loving, and that's what we need in this world. We don't need more scholars. We need more people who are truly kind and compassionate to each other. Yeah, so I'm done from my side. If there is anything else, you can take it up. So remembering the key while we drop off from the session, the moment repetitive patterns of thought come to me, I will not lose myself there, knowing that I don't find anything there. And hence I'll cling to the breath and know myself as awareness. So this can be a little key for us to be simple, live a light life. And since we don't know what is the time of death, death can strike any time. Why to live a heavy and burdened life? Why not to live a lighter life, even if shorter? Yeah. So, yeah, if there is nothing more, then thank you everyone for joining and having reflecting together and joining for meditation. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.